Welcome to the program, folks. John Murphy, very happy to have you here on the Homefront. We're live on Wednesdays at WILI AM 1400 and 95.3 on the FM. We're also on YouTube. We're on WICH in Norwich and New London. And we're also on WECS in Willimantic and Public Access Spectrum Channel 192. So we're very happy to have you with us. However, we're connecting. The program is always about our guests and the stories they want to share and the good news about the good work they're doing all over our area. Another busy show today. We're going to talk about Eastern arts and jazz. Today, by the way, is International Jazz Day, so heads up to the jazz world. We're going to have Rick O'Neill here talking about jazz education at Eastern, and they have some special concerts coming up, and we'll talk about that later in the show. We're going to have Sarah Moon come back. She's a writer. She has a program coming up in the area. It's called Write Your Roots, Eating to Heal. It's a way to write reflective journals and end up doing them as performance art with an audience for healing purposes, to share your process of food, the issues that it brought to your life, the stories you tell about it, and then you perform your own story in a therapeutic space. It should be very interesting with Sarah. But we're going to begin with the regular report we have from the Cultural Coalition, serving southeastern and northeastern Connecticut. It's our DRSO, keeping the arts alive all around us. And we have Baird back with us again. She's the Outreach and Impact Coordinator. Kia, good to have you back in the house.
Hey, good to be here. Always good to see you.
You bet. And I guess now you're jumping into Make Music Day
as
well.
Oh,
for
my
the
goodness.
solstice, right?
Yes, right. Because summer. We're excited that it's coming. You know, it was a slow start, but we're getting there.
That's right.
So Make Music Day happens on the summer solstice every year, June 21st.
That's right.
It is a holiday. Eventually it'll become an official holiday.
Well,
but
it's a global celebration.
It's a global celebration, an unofficial holiday of music making. It is a series of free and oftentimes participatory music events for everyone, any level. Played instruments all your life, never played an instrument, can sing, can't sing, all of the things. And we're excited that, so the Cultural Coalition has managed Make Music Southeastern Connecticut for many, many years.
That's right.
But we are excited that many of the communities that we kind of kept in like a regional Make Music Day are taking on their own Make Music Days this year.
Nice.
So we are launching Make Music New London this year. We are launching Make Music Wyndham area. We haven't totally decided Wyndham area, Wyndham region, Wyndham something. Yep. And then quite a few other towns around that will be participating. So now is actually the time, if you are a musician who wants to play something, or if you are a venue that wants to host musicians, now's the time to get signed up. So makemusicday.org, and then you can click on cities, and you can find the city where your venue is or where you want to play, and then you get signed up. That's how you do it.
I've been covering this for many years. It started in France. The whole idea is music is not just for a concert hall. It's front porches, parking lots, parks outside, anywhere that you can make noise of any kind. And what Kia was saying is, if you go to the website, you can register so people will learn about your location to come that day. And if you want to play, you could figure out all the places you could go that day and hit a couple of spots and tour a little bit and bring your noise all around.
Absolutely.
But the website is makemusicday.org, right?
Yep,
So that's pretty easy.
Yep.
It's a beautiful thing. This is early May now, so we have plenty of time, and we'll talk about this more, I guess, with Jacob.
Next month. We want to celebrate all of the music making that's happening across the state of Connecticut. So Jacob is helping us with that, and he's a percussionist, so he's also a great musician.
Right. Well, we also have Adia Baxter with us. This is her first visit in the studio. She's the Northeast Coordinator, and she's also the Funding Booster Coordinator, wearing two hats at the Coalition. So welcome to the studio. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
Now, I know you've been with the organization for a while, but you recently became the Northeast Coordinator.
That is correct.
So can you paint a little picture of what you'd like to do with this so people in our area will know how they can connect to you and the kind of things you're trying to do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm kind of happy that my position is starting at the beginning of summer because things slowed down a little bit. So I really want to take this time to go to different events around the Northeast and meet people, maybe go to some festivals and just introduce myself, have it be, a little bit more organic as opposed to like emailing all the time. So
Sure.
If there are any events that are going on, I'd love to know about them, and I'd love to attend and participate in any way I can. So please let me know.
So one thing you could do is reach Dia at the coalition. I know one thing she's trying to do is to connect to all the councils and guilds, because a lot of you folks have been in the studio. I've had the Ashford Arts Council, the Coventry Arts Guild. You meet throughout the year at different times. You have special events. Well, now you have a new resource person, and they can help you with grant opportunities, training opportunities, ways to build your council into a larger thing and help people join. So this is really kind of an enabler to help you grow locally. So again, that's the website culturesect.org. Also, you have some other things, too, that you want to mention. You have actually the Funding Booster program itself. So maybe you could talk about that.
Absolutely. So I am a grant writer by trade. And so my position with the Cultural Coalition is to work with nonprofits, artists, musicians who are looking for grants. I can either help them with research and locating grants. If they have found grants and want a little bit of advice or suggestions on how to go about applying, I can do that. Or even if you just need an extra set of eyes to look over a grant that you've already written, sometimes it's just good to have an additional person just look over it just to, I was just telling a friend that I had my 22-year-old son look over a grant that I wrote last night, and my numbers didn't add up. And I would have sworn that they did, but it's nice to have just that extra set of eyes to look over any grant. So I'm happy to help in whatever way I can.
Maybe, Kia, what are the kinds of grants that have happened in the past where people can get specialized training? Because that's a big area to cover, right? What are the kinds of things people might find out more about?
Well, so one springs to mind. The Connecticut Humanities has a grant that they call a quick grant. But we laugh all the time internally because it's the money comes quick, but the grant is not quick at all. So
Hurry up and wait.
Well, the money comes quick once you do the grant, but
Right.
it's a lengthier process to do the grant. So that's why it's great to have someone like Dia that can be that extra set of eyes to help you get the grant application done. So those are grants that come down from CT Humanities. One thing that I'm sure that I've mentioned here, again, especially in this region, is that we hear from organizations like NEFA, New England Foundation of the Arts, that they don't get a lot of grant applicants from our region.
They call it the quiet corner,
Exactly,
right? And it's too quiet.
It's too quiet.
It's too quiet.
You've got to ask. You've got to go out there and get those grants. So, and one of the things that they specialize in these touring grants. So if you have a venue, if you have a house museum or a theater, and you want to bring some a tour that's happening nationally to your region, those are the kinds of grants that they offer. But I mean, the sky's the limit, right? A lot of times folks will come to us with an idea and we'll help match a grant to the idea. So as opposed to just like, oh, this grant, and honestly, I tell people this all the time, don't make the grant make your program. You have to find a grant that fits your program.
Right.
So
Take charge.
Yeah, exactly. And
hard.
it's more authentic that way. If you already have an idea, if you already have something that you're working on, the funding booster can help you find the funds that will help that program or that idea become successful.
I've done a lot of grant work over the years, and one thing that I had to do each time is look at other grants that were possibly competitive or previous year to see what worked, to get some ideas, not to copy them, but to see what are the methods that might be adaptable. And this way you're not having the blank page being a real obstacle and not reinvent the wheel sometimes, right?
100%. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the legislative session, and it's been quite a meat grinder this time. I'm not going to get into that. This is the wrong show for that. But it's Arts, Tourism, and Culture Advocacy Day because these three sectors are really stressed, and they were on the verge of coming together with a real partnership, and then a lot of things fell out from under them, and they're trying to recover from that. So can you talk about the Advocacy Day and when it is? At the Capitol.
It is at the Capitol.
Right.
It's next week already, Wednesday, May 7th.
Okay.
From 10 to 2 or pretty much all day. But it is an opportunity for arts, culture, and tourism organizations to kind of set up tables, information booths, right in the Capitol for folks from the community to walk by and get information, but really to catch the legislators where they are.
Sure.
And to really get their ear and talk to them about the things that are important. Obviously, many of us are dealing with funding cuts, funding shortages, and so this is an opportunity for these organizations to really make their legislators, our legislators, know what is important to us, what is important to our community, their constituents, and, kind of hold their feet to the fire a little bit. So it's a day that we get up there and advocate for the programs that we work for, that we love, and really make our voices heard at our Capitol.
Well, during the political campaign, they really have learned how to help people with letters and ways to advocacy for different issues. The arts community sometimes is kind of slow to organize itself, and advocating for yourself means all across the state there are artists working sometimes in isolation, but they're citizens, they're voters, they're taxpayers, they're creatives, and the idea is to get them organized more as a visible presence. Because the multiplier, because we talked about that last time, for every dollar invested in the arts, it's multiplied.
Absolutely.
So that's an investment that pays for itself.
Right.
So I want to mention the website again if you want to connect. It's culturesect.org. You can also register there for their newsletter, and they'll send you stuff throughout the year to keep you up to date about grant opportunities, especially things you might not, you might miss. And some of the stuff you need to know to move ahead. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover for your first visit that we didn't touch on today?
No, I just really hope that I can get out there and meet some people from the Northeast area. I'm really looking forward to that. So. Okay,
well, welcome, and we'll certainly have you back.
Thank you.
And I look forward to having you back next month with Jacob, and we'll really drill down on makemusicday.org.
Awesome.
Right?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay.
As always.
Always good to have you folks here. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
All righty. We'll take a short break for a few minutes, and then we're going to talk with Sarah Moon. Stay with us. All righty, welcome back to the program. I just want to mention again, if you want to join us in the studio, if you have some information you want to share or some news, just use email. We'll connect and we can arrange any Wednesday. We're live here at WILI. John@humanartsmedia.com is the email. It works all the time. We'll be very happy to have you in the studio. Or just send me the information through the email I'll give you. You don't have to come in the studio. Just send the information and we'll mention it during the show. Well, right now I'm very happy to share the studio again with Sarah Moon. She is a writer, and she's involved in a very special project right now coming up called Write Your Roots, Eating to Heal. Write Your Roots is a series of projects that she's done for a while, and she has May 5th as an important date for participating in this combination of writing, healing, performance, and group processes. And it's a really interesting way to use writing in a healing process. And I know I described that very poorly, but from our last interview, it was wonderful how you're integrating the blank page with an intentionality. And in this case, it's food and eating to heal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so I'm excited to invite community members who have been through the experience of having had to change their diet for medical reasons. So it's such a wide array of people that I was ignorant of until I went through the experience myself. So about 6 months postpartum with my last child, I was hit with a couple of medical issues at the same time and was in a rough spot. Insomnia, a lot of pain, and I didn't know what was wrong. So one of the issues was something I could treat with a pill, and that's great.
Yep.
But the other issue was not. There was no way to make it better unless I cut a number of favorite foods out of my diet, like chocolate, coffee,
my condolences.
Citrus,
too.
Yeah,
The acid,
yeah.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
Vinegar, I love my salad dressing, couldn't do that. So it was a really radical change to my diet, and I realized, wow, there are so many people who are going through this, and it's just so much more complicated than having a doctor tell you, here are the things you can't eat. As soon as you find out, you suddenly have to change your attachments to foods. What are your comfort foods? Now you've lost some of those, maybe all of those.
You have to rethink your shopping habits.
Yeah,
right?
how do you
your
shop
program,
differently,
right?
cook differently?
Right.
So I felt like this was an experience that would really benefit from exploring in writing and being able to reflect on, what did it put upon me to have to go through those changes, and then to share that experience with other people who've been through it as well. So this project is inviting people who are ready, who feel interested in exploring their experience of changing their diet, to write about it with a writing coach, so they'll have another person.
Walk us through the process.
Yeah,
because it goes over a few weeks.
Yeah, so this is a process that I developed when I was a graduate student at UConn and creating this Write Your Roots project concept for the first time, and it involves participants working one-on-one with a writing coach who's a writing faculty member at one of our local universities, and they go through a process of about 3 weeks submitting their work, getting feedback, submitting a next draft.
Drafting's right.
Then we get together as a group. Everybody reads their piece together at the table. We do a potluck, and in this case, everybody will bring foods that they can eat.
Yeah.
We'll get to share and try some of those, and then we'll provide feedback to all of the writers as a group, and we'll start to think about what is this piece together, because we'll then be bringing them together as an evening of theater. So the participants will start then to rehearse their monologues with an acting coach. We're working with Alicia Bright Holland, who's an acting professor at Eastern.
She just did a fabulous thing at Eastern recently about Greenwich Village.
Did you see it?
I saw the last show on Sunday. And it was
the women's prison.
Yeah, it was fabulous.
Oh, that's so cool.
So having her on this will really raise the bar.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Think so really
She's
talented.
Yeah.
So folks who want to perform their piece will get that chance. Anybody who says, I would rather step out and have an actor perform their piece, will bring someone in to perform on their behalf.
So they can still have it shared without the personal stress that maybe they're not ready for.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I remember you did this when we did some about 1.5 years ago. It was about abolition.
Yeah.
And it was about a whole project of exploring that time. And how did that work out at the end? Because you had the same process of performances. How did that resolve quickly? Just in a few words.
So it's not resolved yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've submitted, that was a play that I wrote at Eastern Connecticut Center for History, Art, and Performance. And we did a reading of the final play at that point publicly. But I've since submitted it to a couple of places. I had an opportunity in New York City that I ended up turning down because I have 3 kids and I'm really kind of rooted here. So I'm looking for an opportunity for another presentation in this area. So I've submitted it to a couple local theaters and hopefully we'll get that chance.
Will you let me know? That's a great story because I understand how it came to be and that's great to have that produced.
Yeah.
But once again, May 5th is the date now and the email is writeyourroots. Simple. Write that one down. writeyourroots@gmail.com. And then in July, you're going to have a performance at, can you talk about the Eastern location, how that's going to be?
Yeah, so I think most likely we'll be in the Black Box Theater location at Eastern for anybody who's seen a show there. It's a really great size for an intimate evening of theater
like this. That's a Del Monte
this.
Theater, I think it is.
I think,
I've been there several times. It is very cool. It's not the usual space.
Yeah, it's nice. You get to be really close to the performers and feel like you're sharing this experience, that because it's monologues, it's a series of one-person pieces, does have a real intimate character to it. We'll be brainstorming together as a group ways to bring cohesion to the piece, so that might mean a prop that each of the pieces share and that gets passed from performer to performer, or a piece of song will have music interwoven, or possibly the shared reading of a final piece together. So that'll be something sort of organic that we create as a group.
Yeah. But could you share where the original impulse came? Because we know if you watch any media at all, the bombardment of ads that have to deal with health and all these elixirs and magical potions that are so expensive, That's where this comes out of, is how people are dealing in other ways. But as you prepared for this, are people discovering more and more that the health connection is serious? For example, things are much better for you. As difficult as your transition was over the things you love, everyday life must be much more peaceful.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the thing, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I really believe that so much, difficulty, physical difficulty, and some mental difficulty that we experience can be shifted through diet. I know there's a kind of hot term called intuitive eating, and I don't know the technical definition of that, but I would say that for myself, as I've gotten older and paid more attention to what I eat, I experience something that I might call intuitive eating, where there's a sense that that a food is going to make you feel good, and not just for the next 5 minutes when you're chewing it, but for the next few hours.
That's
and,
right.
Yeah, and
That's right.
Composite, as your diet is a composite of all these foods, that it's going to make you feel good. So I think having that attitude as a foundation definitely helps when you find yourself in that position of, oh my gosh, I have to remove some food that I love. I've talked to people who found out they were allergic to cheese, anaphylactic shock when
That's
they
serious
consume
stuff.
cheese. Yeah.
That'll shut you right down.
I know.
Oh, my word.
You're not going to mess around with that. So, you might
like
love
peanuts for
cheese,
some
but
people.
you just don't have a choice, right? You cannot eat that food. So I think it's a different relationship than what culturally we're led to have with food, which is much more oriented toward that immediate pleasure.
Just pure consumption.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Get
All
as
day.
much as you can, as tasty as you can, and don't think about the consequences.
So I think there's one part of what Sarah's doing here that makes it very special for you is if you have an experience, writing itself is healing. And if you can have that externalized somewhere else, it's cathartic. It's a letting go, and maybe somebody can do it for you if they're a performer and they can represent you if you're not comfortable. But the idea of putting stuff out, it's way beyond a journal, although journaling is cool. Can you talk about the difference? Because you're going much different than just writing it down, although that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think this comes from my experience of being a playwright and also a poet. I've done both. And what it feels like to sit in an audience and have your words reach an audience. Or to be an actor, which I've done as well, and watch those faces and how they react. It's one of the best feelings possible, I think, when you get to connect and know that audience is feeling what you feel. And when you go through an experience like this, it can be very isolating. So to then be able to, write about it, perform about it, and have an audience get what you went through and are going through is such a great antidote to some of that isolation you might have felt early on.
Yeah. That's a great thought, and that's what this is all about. And that might be a good note. Is there anything else you wanted to explain that we haven't touched on with the time? I mean, you've covered it, everything. writeyourroots@gmail.com. Just send a thought there. Even if you're not sure, do it. Talk to Sarah.
Happy to take questions.
Right?
Yeah, if you'd like to know more about what it would entail.
And so, just get it in by May 5th, and the performances will be in early July at Eastern, just up the street, and then we'll have Sarah back in June. Maybe we'll get one or two of the writers if they're ready to perform. Maybe we're going to put the blowtorch right in here. That'd be great.
Awesome.
Okay, well, it's always good to have you in the studio.
Thank you, John.
I wish you
Thanks
great
so
success. All righty. The power of the word, let me tell you. All right, speaking of the words, we have a new release in my hands from Terry Hank. This guy is awesome. He plays saxophone, he sings. He's got mileage on the odometer of life. And he just had this done from the Little Village Foundation. I'm going to interview him in June. It's out of Florida. The tune is for a good match for the news today. If a politician was a doctor.
Line you hear these days, it comes too easy. That's right. You know what, they expect you to lie, huh? Truth is, I don't know what the truth is anymore. Let me tell you about it. If a politician was a doctor, laying right down in jail. If a politician was a doctor, laying right down in jail. That's right. Telling all of his patients everything is swell, everything's alright. Give him a great big dose of some big fat lie. Give him a great big dose of some big fat lie. The operation was successful, but that poor old patient died. Yes, he did.
Hope you like that. That's from Terry Hank. It's a really nice new collection called Grease to Gravy. That was just one taste. If a politician was a doctor, we're going to talk to him in June on the show and talk about his music. It's really great stuff. It has a real good feel for a lot of the gigs around here in our area. If he could play here, I'd love to have him at the River Room. But we'll talk about the River Room later. Right now, I'm happy to share the studio with Rick O'Neill. He's a member of the faculty in the music program at Eastern Connecticut State University. He's a musician in the Thread City Jazz Trio. He's also in the Delta Generators, a monster blues band. So he has many ways that music is part of his life. And he's also an educator. And he's here today to talk about some programming at Eastern. And also, I guess we should begin with International Jazz Day, right?
That's today.
Testify.
Yes.
Tell us.
So we actually did a concert today, just earlier, on campus in the Fine Arts Lobby.
That's right.
And we not only had like the jazz trio, the faculty trio played a few songs, the jazz combo got up and played some songs, and it was more of a jam. And we invited anybody else to show up. And sure enough, a trumpet player came. It was fantastic. a guitar player came who we didn't know. He ended up being the husband of another faculty there who we didn't know he played guitar.
Wow.
He was just waiting for her, and he's like, "Oh, you're doing this in here. I'm going to play with you." So
You don't know sometimes who's in the backyard.
Yeah.
That's cool because they have many kinds of ensembles. There's the concert band, and they're playing tonight. We'll talk about that. The 3 o'clock band. There's other ensembles as well. Maybe you can mention in recent years, because you've been at Eastern several years now, that their fine arts program is really exploding because of a major investment several years ago now that's given us all these new facilities for the arts. Theater we've talked about. Talk about what the music people are doing with this.
Well, music people have, of course, the new fine arts building was the big thing because we had that, and that came with new equipment and that
concert hall,
and that of course attracted more people to come to this program.
Right.
And so it was a small. I mean, Eastern's about 5,000 or so students total.
I think so. Yeah.
To get that, a music program that small to have something to show. It's been getting bigger and bigger. I mean, the theater's been doing very well. Yeah. Communication and theater is doing together, right? Yeah. The voice and percussion was always in that kind of the basis of the program, but the jazz was not quite there yet. Nobody knew we had jazz. Mm-hmm. And I meet in Anthony Cornicello, of course, full time there. He teaches theory and jazz piano, and so we've been sort of gathering the jazz players and getting them in there. So he directs the big band, I do the jazz combo, and we get as many times to play jazz as possible.
Yeah. And, I've visited a couple of Rick's classes, and the jazz class is full. Students are really interested in learning more about this great tradition that you hear so little on the radio of the real stuff. That's one of the dilemmas. I don't want to get negative now, but the music itself is having a hard time today. The media is not music friendly for people trying to make a living and have a family. That's another conversation. Right. But you're helping people find their way to the music.
Yes.
So maybe talk a bit more about the concert tonight and what they might be doing. This is at 7:30 in the concert hall. If you haven't been there, you should go. It is gorgeous. Sight lines are perfect. The walls are wonderful for acoustics. Everything sounds good in there. They really spent money to make it good. So 7:30 tonight. What's the concert band?
So the concert band, that's a big band. So that's like... it's about a 40-piece band, maybe more. It's a big band, and they do concert music, So it could be some jazz, some pop, some, think about trumpets, trombones, several of them, like a big, percussion, that kind of thing. Like,
right.
And Kelly's directing that. She's been doing it for years now. So, and this is their final show of the semester, So, and by the way, if you're a player and you want to be part of this band, they take community members, So come
Eyes
on
you.
Yeah. So
bring it in.
If you want to be a part of this band, contact Eastern State University and say you want to be in the concert band, and they'll get a hold of you.
That'd be great. Now, a couple of things. An Eastern alumnus that I've done radio with here is Evan Wood. Yeah. Phenomenal drummer. Really creative. He's playing with Ben Keller, who is a phenomenal muralist who's done work all over town and Hartford as well. He's very active on social media, and he has an eye that's unbelievable. And they're going to do work together at the River Room, which is just a few feet away from us here in downtown Willimantic. And they're going to create live painting, interacting with live percussion. In that space, they had a name for it. I don't think it's here.
Blueprint, yeah.
Blueprint.
Yeah.
So that's going to be at 8 p.m. on May 3rd, right here in town at the River Room. If you go to River Room Willie, you'll get the whole program. And you mentioned one more thing on May 5th.
Yeah, so that's the big concert for us, because the big band and the jazz combo are doing their final concert for the semester on Monday night. And we're playing the lobby of the Fine Arts Center, which is a huge, all windows, really fun build.
That's right off High Street. You can't miss it.
Yeah, it's really the newest building you see driving down the street. So, but we're really excited because Dylan and Jacob are the two student leaders who they lead the jazz combo. So I've had this for years, ever since I've been teaching there. I elect two student leaders who want to be directors. And so they do a lot of heavy lifting. They choose material, They sometimes Dylan writes out charts.
Wow.
And
He's a little Quincy Jones, huh?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
does
and-
charts on the fly?
well, and he also and so they've been leading this jazz combo this whole year, and also Dylan is in the big band, and he actually wrote a chart for Sing Sing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. He's in my communication class as well. So
Oh, that's
he's,
right.
Oh, he's a great student. I wish there were more. I have to get his DNA somehow.
And being a great student, Evan Wood, that
Yeah.
alumni, was in the jazz combo before.
That's right.
So
Yeah. So this is all, part of the program in Eastern. Now, one thing else that Rick has evolved, on top of everything else that we've talked about, he's also working with younger people in Putnam and also in Pomfret and Putnam. Can you talk about what you're doing there and how you're trying to apply this path to people even earlier in the path?
Sure. Well, I teach both private lessons and also classes now at Pomfret Boarding School, high school.
Right.
So that's a Pomfret school right in the middle of Pomfret. And so there I teach an intro to guitar class. So I give people introduction to guitar and get them going. I also do an ensemble there, contemporary ensemble.
Right.
Now it's funny, when I started teaching there, they developed this new ensemble because they had like a chamber ensemble, they had a vocal ensemble, but nothing contemporary,
Right.
And within the first year, there was called Honors Contemporary Music Ensemble, a whole mouthful. So they called themselves the Frets.
Okay.
Pomfret, so the
Sure.
Frets.
It's
So-
kind of 50s too. I can see
Yeah,
the
yeah,
50s
and nice
kind of
frets on
thing.
guitar, so.
And pink outfits, the whole thing.
Right. So, and they're doing phenomenal. So, in a couple of weeks, I have a final concert for them as well on May 19th. So,
Frets.
the Frets.
Well, the one thing I want to mention, we have a couple of minutes to go, is about the music itself, because you've been on here with me a few times over the years, and people are still discovering the real heart of jazz. They only, they interpret jazz on what little they get on the media, which is 0.01%.
Right.
Most of it that's recorded never gets on the airwaves.
Yep.
But can you try to describe, in less than a half hour, what it is about this music that, first of all, drew you compared to other musical worlds?
Yeah.
What was it? Because you had many choices, just like we do when we go up and down the dial. But there's something about jazz that's unique, that is irreplaceable, and that's what I want to have you try to find the words for.
A tall order. Okay.
I know.
Well, I do teach all that jazz class at Eastern. This is an intro to jazz history. So anybody who takes a course, you don't have to have any knowledge. You don't have to be a musician.
That's right.
And so we're at the sort of the fusion part of it now. I did chronologically from Louis Armstrong all the way through. So we're just connecting.
Got 100 years or more.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just now connecting jazz history to what we hear now. And so jazz is not just music. It's a perception. It's a way of life. It's anything from civil rights. It's all inclusive. It's non-discriminating. It's it's so many things, and it's its own world, because it doesn't matter who you are, as long as you play jazz or know some songs, play together and you have a good time.
Yeah, the history of jazz, when you learn that these masters that I learned about beginning in 8th grade, these masters, they didn't vote.
Yeah.
Duke Ellington, Charlie Parker, didn't vote. They couldn't vote. And there are lots of history that's coming out now that some people are really not handling well. They call it woke. They call it old history. But it's like you have to understand that to appreciate where the music comes from. I know there was a Hollywood thing, Green Book.
Yeah.
Did you check that out?
That's a great movie.
That was emotional, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it showed through a Hollywood narrative what it was like to be a master player dealing with the South, and what it was like at night on the road after dark. Where is it safe for me to stay? I think Holiday Inn was the first national chain that took blacks.
Yeah.
So, you got to think about that life. So you touch on that in the class, not in a political way, but from the lives of the players. Right?
Yeah, we also talk about the context of what's going on in the nation during the time. So talk about the context when the music is happening.
Yeah.
And how
it's like soul music sometimes.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes and usually the the jazz or the music art is on the forefront of everything culture, so.
Yeah. So I just want to mention, too, that the River Room is right nearby. This is a club that people are still learning about. Have you been there yet?
I have not been there yet.
Okay. Well, they opened just a week or so ago.
Yep.
It is 65 seats. It is not a bar with music. It is a music space where you can get a beer quietly, but it's about the music. It's like a club in New York.
Yeah.
It's low ceilings, close together, 100 feet across the room, 65 chairs. The sound system is really well thought out. When is Chris Beaudry's show, Matt?
Tuesdays at 3 p.m.
3 p.m. Tuesdays. We have a new show here that started with Chris Beaudry, who's a musician, a manager, a really good entrepreneur with music in live situations. And he's the booker manager with Daniela of the River Room. 50 Riverside Drive right here in Willie. If you go to the River Room Willie, it'll be their whole program. It includes jazz. Gray Sargent just played.
Oh, wow.
And he was there like 5 days ago, and I saw the night. And hearing him play, they had almost no amplification. Right. They didn't need it.
Right.
The sound of his guitar right in there.
Yep.
So you got to check that out, because I think
to.
You guys should play there. They should work something out with some of those jazz groups, because we now have a club situation that's really nice for music people. Anyway, I want to thank you for being here, Rick. He's been here many times. He does great work with students, young and into the college level, helping them find their way. Do you want to mention the Delta Generators a little bit? Because the jazz and the blues are kind of the roots, right?
Sure.
Because that's another whole area where he's involved.
Yeah. Well, you'll be interested to know this. We have a show in May 17th over in Taunton, Mass., which is not too far, well, a little ways away, but at a place called The District, which is a new club for us. And we've been around for a while, so it's often you don't find a new club,
Sure.
It's a great venue. I've seen it online, and other people have played there. But then in end of May, we're going to Europe.
Well, you were there before.
I was, and going back.
Right. What has it been like for you to be received by audiences? Is it like a general wave of curiosity about our roots music? What's drawing the interest to have you guys come over?
Well, we're playing some of the same places, but new places as well. Festivals usually, but
sure.
But
Sure.
they just love jazz and blues and roots rock over there. I mean, it's like we're rock stars over there when nobody knows who we are here. That's the way it is. They just love music,
That's right. So that's kind of the world that we work in here. And that's another show that we can't do now. But if you're a consumer of music, you need to think about what streaming is doing. Musicians are starving now. Streaming is not helping musicians. Only the big superstars that get ultra-million hits. And even they count their beans sometimes. Streaming has got to be figured out. And if you stream for free, think twice about the people that make that music, because they're having a hard time right now. Christine Ullman has ranted on the show a lot about that, because it's a real economic crisis. Because without the creators, where does the music go? I mean, that's the thing. It's really critical. And I thank you for the work you do to keep it alive, and for your own work as well. We'll have you back again.
Oh, thanks, John.
Okay. So that's Rick O'Neill from Eastern. Okay, we got a couple of minutes left today. We got 3 minutes. I want to run down a couple of things before the clock goes. A few things I want to mention. The Willimantic Orchestra has a concert on May 4th, and that's going to have a special program of music with, Bakarin. I think Bartok is there as well. It's going to be 3 p.m., and they're also going to feature the Concerto Award winner of 2025. So that's going to be a competition at Eastern. The Bread Box Theater Series goes on. They just had Christine Ullman here last week. They close out May 4th on Sunday. Randy Arbo and Daisy Mayhem and Mark Manville and Rayanne Richards, 4 o'clock on Sunday, May 4th, wrapping up the spring season at the Bread Box. The Trigger Warning Art Show, we had the people on a couple of weeks ago. They're coming up on the full moon Friday, May 5th from 5 to 8, and then May 6th and 7th from 12 to 4 in the afternoon at the Molten Court Gallery. It's a very interesting way of combining art with things that trigger positive or negative actions and behaviors. How does this art form help people become aware and help each other? It's a very interesting show. They're going to have an open mic poetry reading as well. If you want to find out more, just go to Facebook and look at the Molten Lava Gallery. And they're getting busier all the time. And the last thing I want to mention is they have a series here the last Wednesday of the month. On May 28th is The Secret Garden. Then June 25th is Apocalypse Now. They wanted to end the series with a bang, and that's a pretty big bang if you haven't seen it. This is all at the Moulton Court, 31 Moulton Court in Willimantic. Okay, well, I think we're just about out of time right now. Thank you very much for sharing it with us each week. If you want to get involved, John at Human Arts Media is the email. We'll have you on before you know it, and we'll see you next time.